across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 thrilling hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. It is Tuesday, February the 17th. Here's what's coming up. Nigel Farage names his cabinet stars and 2 of the big jobs go to politicians with a distinctly Tory feel to them. Robert Jenrick, until last month the Conservative Shadow Justice Secretary, gets the prestige Chancellor gig. And just 3 weeks after defecting from Kemi's crew, Suella Braverman is anointed as Reform's Education and Equalities Supremo. If you're a Reform supporter, or even if you're not, how do you feel about that? Good news? Or too many Tories? 0344 499 1000. I'll get Reform Deputy Leader former Reform Deputy Leader Ben Habib's take on Farage's banner appointments and the latest on Rupert Lowe's new party, Restore Britain, as well. Of course, as all the news on Ben's outfit, Advance UK, all of which begs the question, is the right getting too fractured? 0344 499 1000. In other news, after Starmer's latest humiliating U-turn, I'll assess just how bad the prospects are for Labour at the local elections. Also today, the paralysed royals struggle to deal with the deepening crisis surrounding disgraced Andrew as shocking new allegations emerge that he used Buckingham Palace as a brothel at which to abuse his pedo pal Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking victims. Where is the police criminal investigation? Why are the cops taking so long? What the hell is going on? 0344 499 1000. And I'll ask the question, why does the Labour government keep making deals with individual American states? Crazy Ed Miliband has just signed a clean air pact with California Governor Gavin Newsom and incurred the wrath of Donald Trump. What's the point of annoying the president just for a spot of vacuous virtue signalling with US states? It's ridiculous, isn't it? Let me know what you think about that. 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday afternoon together. Let's do it, folks. Let's go straight over to my first guest, Ben Habib, the leader of Advance UK. Welcome, Ben.
Good afternoon. Good to see you.
Always a pleasure. Now, big day in the ranks of the Reform. I'm sure that you were very, very excited as Nigel Farage began to announce the beginnings of his cabinet. Obviously, if he wanted to fill an entire cabinet, he doesn't have enough MPs, so he might as well have stood up there and said, I'm naming every single one of my 8 MPs as members of my future cabinet. But he's obviously going to do it selectively, and he just basically, I believe I'm right, so named 4. Richard Tice to be a sort of Deputy Prime Minister, Environment and Energy, Business, Housing. So Richard Tice, it seems, is going to be sort of Deputy Prime Minister and also Secretary of State for nearly everything. Then he, of course, named Robert Jenrick, who until a month ago was the Shadow Justice Secretary for the Tories. He named him as a potential future Chancellor. And then Suella Braverman, who until 3 weeks ago was part of Kemi's crew, a former Home Secretary, of course, as the potential future Secretary for Education and Equalities, not forgetting, of course, Zia Yousaf, who will be, should they win the election and get enough seats, the Home Secretary. So clearly there's room for more names to be named. Danny Kruger was conspicuous by his absence, so was Sarah Pochin. Now, the response where he made this announcement was kind of mixed. Robert Jenrick being named as future Chancellor didn't go down at all well. Suella Braverman got a bit of a cheer. But of course, among many Reform supporters, there's a feeling that, in that announcement alone, too many Tories, that Reform seemed to be turning into Conservatives Mark II, just a bunch of people who quit the Tories in dismay. And are now being lined up to be big noises in Reform. But, is that what Reform supporters want? Former Tories?
Well, it could have been marginally worse. They could have had Jake Berry up there as a member of the shadow cabinet. They could have had Zahawi, who was pro-vaccine.
I think there's talk that Zahawi might get Foreign Secretary. It wasn't announced today, but The Times suggested that this morning. I don't think that will go down well.
No, that will not go down well, particularly since he's quite a globalist. He's part of that international jet set brigade that hobnob with people with large sums of money and, in my view, damage our democracy as a result of the kind of meetings that they have behind closed doors, which are not minuted, about which we, the people, know nothing. But, just leaving aside the fact that I'm leader of a competing party for a moment, I think it is good, at least, to see Reform nodding towards trying to create a cabinet. And of the people that they've got as MPs, I'd say they took the best of them to put them in the cabinet. Jenrick, of course, does have ministerial experience. Suella Braverman, I think, was a poor decision of hers to switch to Reform. But she... I know her record as Home Secretary was abysmal, but she has spoken, which is a fact. But she has spoken. Sorry, I'm trying to be serious here for a second.
I agree with you. I agree. They were all lousy. They all stand, like Priti Patel. I was so good when I was Home Secretary. Oh, excuse me, was I in another world then? Because you were useless, and so was Suella. I mean, admittedly, probably up against the forces of
Sunak.
The Tory left-wingers, but both of them useless.
Yeah, the numbers speak for themselves. But to be fair to Suella, I've always been impressed with her preparedness to say things as they are. She may not have walked the walk, but she certainly talked the talk. And, she called out, as Home Secretary, she called out the threats to Western civilization coming from mass migration and a failure to recognise who we are. So, I mean, of all the Tories they've got, I think Farage chose the best Tories, if you like, that he had in his midst. But it is Tory Mark II. That is, it's almost... You look at the shadow cabinet he's got, and they're all very familiar. And maybe there's some comfort in that for people looking at it. But actually, familiarity in the case of politics at the moment is not a good thing, because familiarity means you're recycling the same people, as you just touched on, who created these problems in the first place. That is the problem. We need a clean sweep in Parliament.
Now, you could be accused, along with Rupert Lowe, of fracturing the right. Advance UK is your party. As you well know, last Friday, Rupert Lowe turned his former political movement, Restore Britain, into a fully fledged political party to challenge Reform, to challenge the Tories, as indeed your party intends to do. You've made no secret of the fact you wouldn't mind hooking up with Rupert to form a kind of a two-pronged attack. Before we get on to your attitude to Rupert Lowe, Nigel Farage was asked a question about our friend Rupert and got quite prickly about his response. Have a look.
People think, oh, Farage has done it, we'll just set a party up, it'll be marvellous, we'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, I realised we just had to get rid of him. and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you.
So Nigel Farage is too liberal for Rupert Lowe. I mean, the thing about what Farage was just saying there, rather tetchy, I thought, about Rupert Lowe. I mean, obviously there's history there, to say the least. But I'll tell you, a lot of Reform supporters won't like what Farage said there, will they?
Well, Farage lied. He actually lied there. He lied once, and then he admitted that he had lied in the past in the statements he just made. He said that Rupert Lowe was advocating for the deportation of entire communities. Rupert Lowe has only ever said that all illegal migrants need to be deported, all foreign criminals need to be deported. He has never said that if you're a foreigner born in this country, your parents or your forefathers were foreigners and you were born in this country, you will be deported. He has never said that. That is a lie. And the admission of the lie, of another lie, comes when he says, you know, at that point, when Rupert said this, we had to get rid of him. We did it rather brutally, but we had to get rid of him. Which means that when Zahir Yousaf made the accusation against Rupert Lowe that he'd been physically threatened by him, when he made that accusation and to the police, made the police complaint, that was a lie. And Farage just admitted it. He said we had to get rid of him. That was the motivation. And yet the mechanism they used was to trump up a false charge against Rupert Lowe. They lied to the police. They also lied about bullying that Rupert Lowe was apparently guilty of. And for Farage to get up on stage and lie about what Rupert has said, and then admit that they lied in the way that they had a go at him last year, actually reveals Reform for what it is. And you mentioned, I know you perhaps don't want to come onto it right now, but if Reform is that kind of party, if it makes its Home Secretary, Shadow Home Secretary, the very individual who tried to use lawfare against Rupert Lowe, then Reform has got some serious, genuine questions to answer to the public. And that's why Restore Britain has launched itself as a political party, and that's why Advance UK has launched itself as a political party. It's not that we think it's easy to launch a political party and establish ourselves. I absolutely fully recognize and acknowledge it's one hell of an effort, and I've been working non-stop getting this done. But we have to do it if Reform is full of charlatans.
A fair few from some of our Reform supporter audience, that you are both motivated by personal animosity.
No,
you somehow want to do him down.
Kevin, if this was just a matter of me being upset with Nigel Farage, I'd sidle off to I'd come on your show and I'd say this, that, and the other against him, and I'd do nothing much else. Actually, Rupert Lowe has now set up a party, or is setting up a party, and I set up a party a year ago. That's not the sign of someone who just wants revenge. That's the sign of someone who's deeply concerned about what's going on. I put over £100,000 into this party. I've put a hell of a lot of time of my own into this party. I work non-stop, pretty much all day, every day, trying to get this party established. This is not bitterness. This is not a desire simply to get back at someone. This is a desire to do what's right for the United Kingdom. And, you know, that as quaint and as difficult it might be for some people to, as quaint as it might sound, as difficult as it might be for some people to believe it, that is the true motivation. That's why Rupert Lowe's in politics. That's why I'm in politics. Now, Rupert and I may not absolutely agree on everything. I wish he hadn't done his movement. I wish he'd joined Advance last year and we'd be much further ahead. But be that as it may, we are only in politics because those people who are on the political landscape at the moment actually have delivered this country into peril, and Farage doesn't offer the solutions. That's why we're doing what we're doing.
And you've made it clear, well, to me personally on this show and also on social media, that you'd be very amenable to the idea of Advance UK and Restore Britain joining forces, if you like, becoming one big political party. Have you heard from Rupert about that? What is his attitude to your offer?
Well, we've had, so mine is a very open offer. It's without detail at this stage. And it really is for Rupert to pick it up and, you know, respond. I've had some interaction with Rupert, but no substantive progression of discussions. Of course, it's very early days at the moment.
And but in principle, if you could work things out, you would be happy for Advance UK and Restore Britain to unite and form one big political party. Would that be amenable?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're stronger together. And on the vast majority of policies, with perhaps the odd exception here and there, you know, we're aligned. I think you raised one of their first policies yesterday, which was, you know, giving parents.
Yeah, it's a bit odd.
A bit odd.
Yeah, parents who want to take their kids on holiday during term time will no longer be punished. I mean, I sort of approve of that, but it's a strange first policy to announce.
So, you know, but these are kind of fine details, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, let's not just talk about reform and Rupert. Just before you go, I need to get your take on this. Well, we're trying to calculate exactly how many U-turns Keir Starmer has now staged. We were saying yesterday we reckoned it was 16, unsweet 16. Some of the papers today saying 14. Funnily enough, I think Mark Dolan this morning on Breakfast was saying 15. I think Julia went back to 14. I think I'm going to return to 16. But in the end, it doesn't matter. It's a vast number of U-turns. This latest one was absolutely humiliating because it proves that when Keir Starmer invited all these councils to delay their elections, that was illegal. Now, you know, they said yesterday, Starmer conceded on legal advice, due to Reform UK's legal challenge, we've been advised we'll lose that case. Therefore, the elections are all back on. My question is did he not take legal advice before announcing this? Surely he did. And secondly, how many more? It's good that we've got democracy back, that 4.5 million voters have got their franchise back and will be able now to participate in the local elections in May. That, of course, is good. But how many more U-turns is this guy going to make? He's just run out of rope, hasn't he? He's finished.
Well, I mean, they lack, again, they lack a clear direction of travel. And they don't understand what it is they wish to achieve, other than, you know, great damage to the United Kingdom in by any means possible. They don't really have a joined-up plan. And so, like so many politicians before them, they're pivoting from one issue to the next. There's no joined-up thinking. And so without coherency, you're going to have to reverse positions when you get pushback. If you had coherency, if you had the courage of your convictions, if you thought it through, you would say no. This is our whole portfolio of policies. This is necessary because it supports this policy and that policy and so on. And we won't be able to achieve our agenda. We won't be able to save the United Kingdom, make it more prosperous or whatever it is they're aiming to do, unless we get all of this on the table. So we're not going to budge. The reason people may dislike Maggie, many people may dislike Maggie, but the reason she said the lady's not for turning is because she knew that the minute she turned on one issue, she wouldn't be able to deliver her vision of the United Kingdom, whether or not you agree with that vision. And it's crucial when you get into government that you have a political philosophy, that you bolster it with policies that get you there, and then you don't bend on those policies because you will fail.
Yeah, as I was saying yesterday that, you know, I don't like anything that Starmer ever says or any of his policies. But, you know, whilst I might vehemently object to his policies, I think I'd probably prefer it if we had a Prime Minister with backbone who at least stuck to them. I mean, it's good that he keeps U-turning on these terrible policies, but it gives projects an image of a jellyfish of a Prime Minister who cannot make up his mind about anything and not stick to any decision anyway. I think we're in bad straits with this guy. Ben, fantastic to talk to you as always. Ben Habib there, leader of Advance UK. What do you think about what he was saying? What do you think about the reform cabinet, such as it is so far? We'll talk about that next. Samara Gill, who was at the big announcement today, Nigel Farage's cabinet, will be in the studio to discuss events that unfolded at that gathering. That next, stay tuned.
I suppose what is so different about Restore Britain to Reform UK, which then sort of illustrates the why there needs to be Restore Britain?
The meaningful political distinction in British politics today is not left and right, but it is anti-establishment versus establishment.
In terms of defections, Rupert Lowe was a member of the Conservative Party. He used to donate significant amounts of money to them. In many respects, he is a Conservative defector.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Samara Gill, our ace reporter, is in the studio. We're going to talk about the reform announcements earlier today of Nigel Farage's potential shadow cabinet. Just the beginnings, but interesting names in the hat. Welcome, Samara. But before you and I talk, big reaction from what happened with me and Ben Habib just now. In fact, we've got voice notes piling in, all of them from people called Steve. This is Steve in Manchester.
I'm not too bothered about them being given those jobs, actually, because they have got experience. And when they were in the Tory party, they were outspoken voices and more aligned with Reform's ideas than they were the Tory party's ideas. So I think that the best thing they ever did was move to the Reform Party. And I hope that it's a good thing that they've done that. And I hope we get good results from it. We'll just have to see, won't we?
And here's Steve in Hertfordshire.
Listening to Ben Habib twaddle on there, he needs to get his facts straight. Rupert Lowe did say he would deport British citizens. He said he would deport the families of those involved in the rape gangs that had supported their family members in their activities. Whether they were born in the UK or not, he said he would deport them. So Ben Habib is talking out of somewhere the sun doesn't shine now. And to be honest, Ben, you sound like a very bitter man.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the thing about, I mean, thank you, both Steves, Manchester and Hertfordshire. Very interesting voice notes. And the thing is, you know, a lot of people say, oh, the only reason that Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib are doing this is because they hate Nigel Farage. I think there is an element of that. But, you know, welcome to politics. Welcome to Westminster. A lot of politics are based on personal animosity, not on great philosophical, political ideals. So, yeah, there's a bit of that. I don't doubt it. Let me know what you think. What do you think about what Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib are doing in terms of challenging Reform UK? So you've got Restore Britain, Rupert Lowe's party, Ben Habib's party, Advance UK, definitely fracturing the right. A lot of our audience are gravitating toward Rupert or Ben. They now see Nigel Farage as the establishment. So let me know where you stand. Are you with Rupert, Ben, or Nigel Farage? And how do you feel about Reform being branded Tories Mark II? So many Tories defecting. Well, in the studio, she was at the gathering today, is our ace reporter Samara Gill. Hi, Samara.
Hello, how are you, Kev?
I'm okay. You were telling me earlier, though, when Suella was announced as Education and Inequalities,
yes,
she got quite a cheer. But when Robert Jenrick was announced earlier as the key position of potential future Chancellor of the Exchequer, not such a big cheer.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? It's kind of battle of the Tories. I mean, during the questions after with the press, Nigel said, well, I took the sort of first front bencher and then I took the best back bencher. And he was kind of saying that Reform has shut up shop for any future defections from the Tories, and he was saying, you know, there's very, very, very few people that I would take now from that party and that would make it through my process. So I think he's almost acknowledging that their popularity has been somewhat hit by all these defections. And I agree with what you just said out of the studio kind of before the show about the fact that, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, about the fact that it's quite a lot.
Cut the swearing out, all right?
but it's quite a big deal to put these two defected Tories in these positions. I mean, people like Lee Anderson, like Sarah Pochin, who are more original reformers, were not given those coveted shadow positions today, and that was quite interesting.
Yeah, I think, you know, clearly you still got Danny Kruger, you've still got Lee Anderson, Sarah Pochin, of course, you know, who I'm sure will get key roles, but of course he's obviously doing it drip, drip, drip. If I was him, I might not have announced two Tories today. I might have put Sarah in the mix and maybe saved Suella for another day, but, you know, who am I? Anyway, you were at this event, this launch, this announcement today, and you put together a sort of package of the key moments that unfolded this morning as Nigel Farage announced the first members of his potential future cabinet. So here's Samara's report.
Well, we are at Church House over in Westminster, and behind me is a pretty dramatic setup by Reform UK. They are set to announce their shadow cabinet. Who knows what this will involve? Just last week, Farage told me in an exclusive interview that he would not be putting anyone in his shadow cabinet who had previously failed at those positions. So, you know, we're not going to probably see a Suella Braverman as Home Secretary, but who knows who we will see as Home Secretary, which will be a very influential position in a Reform government that promises to stop the boats. I've got Shadow Chancellor of the Exchequer behind me. That's also going to be announced. So we've got plenty of different announcements here as Reform prepares to form the next government.
We're looking for is genuine experience, but perhaps we can actually bring back to the world of business and energy somebody at the top of this department who's done well himself in the real world. So please welcome to the stage our head of BTE, Richard Tice.
using the joy of our very valuable energy treasure, oil and gas, offshore, onshore, and having the courage to get rid of the madness of what we've politely coined net stupid zero.
But taking on the very responsible and important role of Shadow Chancellor is Robert Jenrick.
Well, thank you, Nigel, and I didn't keep you waiting this time. Look, we all know that our economy isn't working.
And Zia Youssef will take on the role of Shadow Home Secretary.
If you are in this country illegally right now and you are watching this, I want to be crystal clear. As Reform's Home Secretary, I will ensure that you are deported from these lands.
And not only will Suella Braverman take on education and skills, something that's been ignored for too long, but she will also take on equalities under this brief, which of course means the world of DEI.
Social and gender transitioning will be absolutely banned in all schools, no ifs, no buts.
Well, Shadow Prime Minister Nigel Farage basically announced that Richard Tice will be revolutionising energy in the United Kingdom. Robert Jenrick will be clutching the nation's chequebook. We've got Zia Youssef will be protecting our borders and doing deportations, potentially en masse. Wow, that was an interesting shadow cabinet review. There seemed to be some sort of fracture between how all the top five were feeling about each other, something palpable within the room. But for now, it's no longer a one-man band for Reform. This is their shadow cabinet.
Yeah, what was the mood like there? Good report, Samara. What was the mood like there? Because, as we say, I'm sure there's a strategy that the other big names in the party will be announced fairly soon for different roles. I mean, there's all sorts of departments that are not yet spoken for. You know, I'm thinking of DEFRA. Well, foreign. The Times today, any chat about Nadeem Zahawi, because the Times today are suggesting that Nigel might be lining him up to be Foreign Secretary. That isn't going to go down well.
I don't think that will go down well, unfortunately. I mean, I think, interestingly, there were quite a few questions from the press about some of Nadeem's comments on a competing radio station a couple days ago, where he spoke about seeing someone who was tired in the street and the effect that had on him. And I think it was more of a bigger conversation about crime, but it didn't go down very well. So I think it's very plucky, though, of someone like Farage to go and put someone like Zia Youssef as Shadow Home Secretary when Zia Youssef isn't even a sitting MP currently. I mean, this is really ambitious behaviour, but the actual vibe within the auditorium was very interesting. I think you have to be there to kind of gauge these sort of things. And
Explain. What do you mean by that?
Well, you could see that Zia and Jenrick were definitely... they haven't, let's say, repaired their friendship, or they haven't really made amends. You know, they were barely looking at each other. I mean, Zia went on an absolute tirade about the Boris wave and migration. And this is obviously all stuff that happened under Jenrick's watch. So there are a lot of things that definitely weren't cohesive in terms of the message that the Fantastic Five would like to put forward. But I think in terms of reform strategy, it's an interesting one. But Farage was in a very sort of jacked up mood today. I think some of the Rupert Lowe announcements over the weekend, some of the Habib
He's rattled, isn't he? You could tell that.
He was rattled.
You could tell
he was
from
snapping
Farage,
at journalists.
He really snapped about Rupert Lowe, didn't he?
He really did.
Went off on one, yeah.
Another journalist from the FT tried to make a comment about the fact that all five of those people standing on that stage went to ritzy private schools, and why should they be? Well, why should someone like Suella be schooling us on the state education, and do any of them send their children to state schools? And he really went hard for that journalist. Yeah, he went kind of Trump style, not answering that. That's a silly question. Why did you put this on your front page? This and that. And I can understand. I mean, Farage has been getting it in the neck for years from the press. I can understand why he's like that, but you can see that there was something a little bit different going on behind the scenes with him today. And the shadow cabinet announcement, yeah, some went down well. I think Suella's a great scalp for them. But Jenrick, him as Chancellor, I mean, his sort of knowledge in the private sector is him being the manager at Christie's. I don't really think that that gives you any sort of weight to become be in charge of the purse pocket of the country. I think it's a very strange appointment, and it seems more like a sort of favour, in my opinion.
Yeah, you now tend to sense that part of the deal of Jenrick defecting from the Tories would be, well, I won't come unless you give me Chancellor.
Yeah.
Because everybody thought Richard Tice would be Chancellor, very talented man, very successful businessman, you know, so who understands finances, who understands the economy from working in the real world around it with his very successful business. So a lot of people thought Tice would get that, but Jenrick's got it. And you're right about that, you know, Farage's got to be careful. You know, the thing about, you know, the Westminster, you know, public school, Oxford and Cambridge syndrome is the sad truth is a lot of very talented people go to public school, and because they're clever, they go on to one of the two best universities in the country, Oxford or Cambridge. So naturally, you're going to get these people in high positions in Westminster, but the public get fed up with it. They get fed up with it, and so I think Farage is going to have to be careful about not appointing too many public school educated Oxford graduates. You've got to be careful about that. Samara, great report. Thank you for dropping in. Samara Gill there, our ace reporter. Next up, we're going to talk to former political editor at The Sun, the one and only Trevor Kavanagh, about the astonishing U-turn by Keir Starmer yesterday over the local council elections, and assess Labour's chances at those elections, which many feel are not bright. The outlook could be bleak. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, let's talk about the local elections. Yesterday's big story was, of course, we're trying to calculate it. It might have been Keir Starmer's 14th major U-turn. It might have been the 15th. Various estimations going on. I'm sticking with 16, so you can say it's his unsweet 16th U-turn, but it doesn't really matter. He's staged way too many massive U-turns, and yesterday he completely backtracked on his decision to offer 30 councils the chance. Well, he actually offered more councils, but 30 councils took up his offer of postponing, delaying, cancelling their local elections in May, ostensibly, of course, because Labour said, well, it's to do with boundary changes and administrative difficulties, and it's not worth having an election now. Well, it turned out that they were advised that that excuse would not stand up in court, that it was not legal, actually. So therefore, they had to back down in the face of a lawsuit from Reform UK. Keir Starmer was clearly advised by his legal team, you'll lose that case. So he had to back down. I'd like to have been in the room when he was told, you've got to stage another U-turn. Let's talk to former political editor at The Sun, a man who's been around the Westminster Houses more times than one cares to mention, the great Trevor Kavanagh. Good afternoon, Trevor.
Good afternoon, Kevin.
Yes, I would have liked to have been in the room when Keir Starmer was told by his legal advisors, your feeble excuse for delaying these council elections, I'm afraid, will not stand up in court. You will lose this case against Reform UK. I'm afraid, Sir Keir, you're going to have to stage another U-turn. I'd have liked to have been in the room there. But the question here, Trevor, is, did he not seek legal advice before announcing this plan to offer councils the chance to delay their elections? It looks as if he didn't, or if he did, he ignored that advice.
Well, this is a man who postures as a King's Counsellor, a barrister, a silk, a very highly paid and allegedly silver-tongued breed. And what he's doing is blundering into constant areas where he has to, as you say, perform somersaults and U-turns to get out of the mess that he's found himself in. I mean, he's managed this Captain Snoozefest crasheroony, has managed to bring about both an omni-shambles and a clusterflag. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Every day, another disaster. And I think that people are really going to be sick and tired, and they would express that view when those elections do take place in the 30 councils where they were going to be banned on May the 7th. And I think that Labour is simply going to implode on those occasions. The big worrying thing is who fills the vacuum. I think that Reform is going to do very well indeed. But I also worry about the Greens. I think that the Tories will also do much better than people thought a little while ago. But what we've got, especially in the Greens and the Reform Party, are some very worrying characteristics emerging, which you just discussed with Samara Gill. I thought she was very good on that.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting dynamic going on within Reform itself. But I think in terms of the overall picture, the one headline I think we can place on the local elections coming up, how well will Reform do? How well will the Green Party do? I think one thing we can predict with a certain amount of confidence that those elections are going to be a very, very bad day for Labour.
Absolutely, and I think that it will be the end of Keir Starmer. I think that he's really staying in place only because nobody else who might want the job wants it until after this blood is let in those elections. They don't want it on their hands, and they will, I mean, how can he survive after those U-turns you've just listed? And yet another disaster, and also in the by-election coming up next week, it's going to be horrific.
Well, it will be. It'll be, as Barack Obama said, or to use his phrase, Labour's going to get a shellacking at these local elections, and it must surely sound the death knell for Keir Starmer. But to go back, it's possibly a little technical for the electorate to get worked up about. But in effect, Steve Reid, of course, the local government secretary, was pushing all of this, as was Keir Starmer. You know, we're offering councils the chance to delay their local elections because of boundary changes and the administrative bureaucratic difficulties that come with that. So, you know, they don't have to have these elections if they don't want to. Now, what emerged yesterday was that proposal, which was a definite policy by the government, was unlawful. It was illegal. You know, they were told this. That's why he had to back down. That's why Starmer had to stage his 19th nervous breakdown stroke U-turn. So did they not take advice? If they took advice, did they overrule it? Were they deliberately pursuing an illegal policy? Because this is serious stuff, isn't it?
Yes, it was illegal, as we now know, although they pretended it wasn't. It was also unscrupulous. I think that they would do anything, as they've proven so many times now with the appointment of people like Peter Mandelson and various other peerages of people who are not fit to be in any public office. You know, we lost a colony, which was the United States of America, over the issue of no taxation without representation. And that was what they were trying to do when they banned these elections. They were robbing the people of those voters in those areas of the right to have a say. And they started actually doing a very appropriate thing, which was to refuse to pay their council tax. No tax without representation.
Yeah. And finally, I'm hearing from, I do know some people within Labour ranks, and as far as they're concerned, yesterday, you know, his 14th, 15th, 16th U-turn, doesn't matter, it's way too many. The latest U-turn was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's it. They've had it with this guy. So yesterday was the day, I think, definitively, we saw the end of Starmer, the end of the Keir show. That was it, wasn't it?
Well, I think it was it some time ago. I mean, this is the 16th nervous breakdown, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a man who was skating on thin ice about 6 months into his premiership and has failed ever since then to get back on an even keel. I mean, he's utterly useless. He is utterly useless in every possible respect as a politician, a leader, a thinker, a man who has any rigor. I mean, the latest thing that he did, which could be called another U-turn, is over the defence policy. He suddenly decided he's going to cough up the 3% that he promised, but several years early. Now, where is that money going to come from? And with the left-wing pacifist party chuntering down his back, I think there's no way that this is going to happen. It's all desperate attempts to get through the day until tomorrow.
And there won't be too many more tomorrows for Keir Starmer. I think we can be assured of that. Trevor, fantastic to talk to you as always. Trevor Kavanagh, the brilliant former political editor, still a columnist for The Sun. Read his stuff. Nobody knows Westminster better than him. Now, let's go to break. When we come back, we'll talk about the former Prince Andrew. Things are getting bad. Allegations that he used Buckingham Palace as a brothel, that Epstein's girls were sex trafficked to him for his own delectation, that he abused them, you know, just down the corridor from the Queen. It's a disgrace what he's being accused of, and it has caused a massive royal crisis. And unless the King does something to defuse this situation, it doesn't bear thinking about. They are genuinely calling this a potential abdication crisis. We'll talk to royal biographer Angela Levin after this break.
Join me, Ian Collins, every weekday from 1.
My 12-year-old. Obviously, he won't be 12 then, he'll be 16, but if he's anything like he is now, he shouldn't be anywhere near an election booth. Do you sympathise with him? Is he the victim of the 24-hour news cycle we just spoke of?
I think his failings are internal. He's useless, incompetent, has no political judgment.
Everything you need to know. All the breaking news right here on Talk.
Weekday afternoons from 1 o'clock. Only at the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the former Prince Andrew, if we must, and I'm afraid we must, because this is getting bad, folks. Serious. Let's go over to royal biographer Angela Levin. Welcome, Angela.
Hello.
Now, the allegations against the former Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, as he is now, are reaching some kind of fever pitch. I mean, these are very serious allegations that he used Buckingham Palace as a brothel, where he received girls who had been sex trafficked by Jeffrey Epstein, his pedo pal, flown in, especially from America, transported to the palace for the then Prince Andrew's entertainment. So he stands accused of obviously his alleged financial misdemeanors, which could be stronger than that. The fact that in the Epstein files it looks as if he was forwarding confidential British information, emails and dossiers to Epstein. He also forwarded confidential information to his friends, the Rowland family, the bankers, David Rowland and his son, Jonathan Rowland, particularly about the Iceland financial crash, which deft financiers could cash in on. Andrew actually asked for a full government report on what was going on in Iceland, and immediately sent it on to the Rowlands. All of this is really serious. So sex trafficking, it could be charged with, some lawyers say, prostitution. Sex trafficking, prostitution, selling secrets. It is now ridiculous, and the King has got to do something. We understand it's difficult because the police may soon announce a criminal investigation into his brother. If not, why not? But the King is looking more and more like a fox caught in the headlights here, like he's paralysed and doesn't know what to do. And this is a massive crisis for the royal family, maybe existential. What do you think His Majesty should do, Angela?
Well, I did think that he ought to make something as a speech for us, because we're absolutely devastated by such a thing. And I think that something from him would be a very good thing to do, but I don't think he wants to somehow. But I think in a way it was like his mother, the late Queen, when she talked about COVID. I know there's nothing incomparable about that, but we were all very worried about this, and we all sort of started not liking the royal family. So she came along and she was very nice about it all. The same about Diana. When she died, we were saying, what's she doing? She's not coming for us. And this is another one of those, but by far the worst, because it's too disgusting to imagine. But it's really in writing now that Andrew has done all these things. You can't say, oh, I can't remember, I don't think so, I don't know anything about it. He can't get away with it like that. And also, the police have got to do something about it. I think that he still can't get to, if he doesn't agree to go to America, they can't actually have sort of discussion about these things. But I think they ought to stop that, change the law, and he's got to go over there. And I think we've got to have absolutely nothing left of him. It's just too disgusting to speak. And I think that in a way it's to get his own back. I can't see anyone with any heart who would go through some of these things. Yeah. But he's actually furious that he wasn't made king, even though he wasn't the heir to the throne. He didn't like Charles, he's never liked Charles, and he wanted to be
Doesn't bear thinking about, does it? And there's another more sleaze emerging from the Epstein files, a email between a journalist at the New York Times and Jeffrey Epstein, which seems to confirm the allegation, which of course Andrew denies, that he did have consensual sex with Virginia Giuffre, or Virginia Roberts as she was then, when she was a very young Epstein girl, not underage, important to stress, but very young. So, you know, I mean, nobody believes Andrew when he says he's never met her anyway, so that's a piece of nonsense. But what I'm getting at here, Angela, is I think the nation is in urgent need of the air being cleared here, and the King needs to somehow work out a way to respond to that, just as the Queen did way back when Diana tragically died.
Yeah, exactly.
She realised, oh my God, we've got this wrong. She made a speech. The same deal with COVID. She made a speech. The King has got to get off his high horse and make a speech to us, don't you think?
Yeah, I do. I think he has done something by saying that he will help the police and he will be with the police as much as he can. Probably he doesn't know anything about what her son has done, but it would be something. But actually, that's not enough. He can't just do that to say, I will help the police. I think he's actually got to stand up there and work one out and apologise, even though it's not his fault. But somehow, with the staff, I think it's absolutely appalling that they didn't know that they couldn't stop him going into Buckingham Palace with girls when the Queen wasn't there. I mean, it was disgusting. Do you know what they said? They used to say when they had somebody there, and they said, Mrs. Windsor will arrive shortly. Please let her in and show her up.
Yeah, that was allegedly one of Epstein's sex trafficking victims.
Yes.
They and Andrew arriving at Buck House, and Andrew using the code name Mrs. Windsor, which is in itself offensive. I think the Queen will be spinning in her grave about all these revelations. I mean, I think she knew that her favourite son Andrew was not perhaps, you know, a saintly knight in shining armour, but I don't think she realised he was allegedly this depraved. The police have got to get their skates on. The King has got to get his skates on. And I always find, you know, I always feel when the royal family get into these kind of crises, their communications people, they assume great deference on the part of all of us. How could we possibly think this of our royal family? But no, there are moments, you just explained two of them, and we may be at the third now, where the British people actually rise up against the royals when they don't think the royals are doing their job properly. And right now they don't. And I'm not sure Charles and his communication team are across the depth of feeling among the King's subjects right now.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I even resent him having a house. I don't see why Andrew should have anywhere to stay. It just annoys me. He shouldn't have any money. I mean, he's a most disgusting man, and you can't trust him at all. You know, not just.
And the King's going to pay for him, you're going to give him a house, going to give him a staff, his own chef and his servants. Also, is going to give him his living money, you know, which will probably be 200 grand a year or something. That's not what we're looking for, Your Majesty. No. We're looking for this guy to be punished.
Yes. He's got to be punished, and as soon as possible, because he is vile and he cares nothing of the nation and he cares nothing of his family, and it's all about him. He pretends he doesn't even know what the girls are, or their name, or anything that he sees.
Yeah, well, he's just and I also think, Angela, the Fergie needs to be spoken to at some length by the authorities, as do Eugenie and B, who are nowhere near as innocent as they've been trying to make out. That entire York family are on the rack, and we want answers. We need them fast. Angela, great to talk to you as always. What a pleasure. Angela Levin, the royal biographer there. What do you think? We need something from the King, from the police. When are the police going to start their damn criminal investigation? They've got enough evidence. Get going, eh? That next. Isabel Oakeshott after the news. Stay where you are.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Just waiting to connect to Isabel Oakeshott. She'll be with us in just a minute. Later on in this hour, we're going to be talking about Dame Antonia Romeo, who looks set to replace Sir Chris Wormold, the current Cabinet Secretary, who's just been sacked by Keir Starmer. And Keir Starmer wants this Dame. Who are these people and all their titles? He wants Antonia Romeo to take over. But Antonia Romeo, to say the least, comes with a lot of baggage. She was investigated in New York when she was British consul there for bullying, harassment and expenses abuse. A lot of people at the Foreign Office say that those investigations were never conclusive and were swept under the carpet. Does Antonia Romeo have too much baggage to be the first female Cabinet Secretary? Many people say she does. Keir Starmer, you know, he's famous for overruling the advice of his advisors, so stand by for Antonia Romeo to get the job. But seriously, we need to talk about that woman's past and why it is that Starmer is so keen to appoint her as the next Cabinet Secretary. He can't appoint anything. He can't do anything, can he, that guy? Everything he does is wrong and useless, as Trevor Kavanagh just said, completely incompetent, utterly useless. How did we ever end up with a Prime Minister like this? I mean, I didn't think it was going to be any good, but I didn't think it was going to be like a complete turnip. It's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. Please, in the name of God, Starmer, go. Go and get yourself a job, a kind of job you're suited for. A parochial solicitor, doing surveilling, house conveyancing, something like this. Just get out of our misery. Anyway, that's my load off my mind. Let's move over, though, to our international editor, Isabel Oakeshott. Welcome, Isabel.
I'm liking your new characterisation of Keir Starmer as a turnip. I think that's great.
He is, isn't he? I mean, it's just... I was just talking to Trevor Kavanagh. You know, we're both sort of got our drawers dropped, just saying he is just so staggeringly useless. I mean, yeah. I can't think of anyone who would be worse as a Prime Minister than this man. And I include my dog. You know, it's just unbelievable, isn't it?
I mean, I'm preferring the dog at this point. I mean, at least, you know, you're always really pleased to see your dog, and your dog's always really pleased to see you. And I don't think either of those apply in the case of Keir Starmer. Who is really pleased to see Keir Starmer? Kind of nobody. Yeah. So I'm going with the dog.
Every day of the week. He's got my vote, that's for sure. Let's move on to Starmer a little later, but I need to get your take on Reform UK's big event today. Well, I mean, I hesitate to ask you this question because you probably had some inside information. But there were some eyebrows raised that Robert Jenrick was named as potentially the Chancellor of the Exchequer. I thought it might be an extremely talented businessman who knows a lot about the economy, Richard Tice. Few eyebrows raised about that. What are your thoughts?
Well, Nigel addressed that question head on in the press conference. I thought it would be one of the first, and it surely was, because, of course, Richard has been part of Reform since its inception and held it together when no one else was interested. But equally, Richard accepts that one of the key criticisms of Reform is that it doesn't have enough ministerial experience or frankly, any ministerial experience before various Conservative defectors came over. And I think that is what Nigel had in mind when he made that appointment. Clearly, Robert Jenrick is very bright. No, he doesn't have quite the economic expertise of perhaps some other candidates, but he's extremely able. And if critics are looking at reform and wanting to say, well, look, you guys aren't ready for government, having somebody that has been in cabinet, that knows their way around Whitehall, that has in fact worked in the Treasury, is a bit of an answer to that. So I see the logic of that. And I think what Nigel has done today is actually reshaped the Treasury and Business and Energy briefs such that the Treasury is not quite the behemoth that it was and has traditionally been. And what Nigel has done is created a new economic super ministry. I mean, frankly, Richard's job is probably going to prove too much for anyone to handle, ultimately, any one person. But at this stage, Reform has only got a limited number of MPs, and it perfectly suits Richard's skill sets. So I think it's going to be a brilliant team. But it's very early days. I was interested that Nigel said again today that he thinks an election is coming next year. And, he has an uncanny ability to be right with these predictions. I don't actually agree with him on this, but since he keeps on saying it, he must believe it. What? And that, I think, would probably reinforce the case for putting someone of Robert Jenrick's experience right in the front line.
I think where he's coming from is that national debt is the ticking time bomb in the background that nobody likes to confront, and it is possible that that could reach a crisis point, to the point where the government would have to go to the International Monetary Fund to bail this nation out, and at that point Labour would have to quit or call an election. That's what I think he's getting at, and there's certainly some credence to that. But as we can see from Keir Starmer's behaviour right now, Labour will reflect our current Prime Minister's behaviour corporately by clinging on for dear life as long as they can. That's what parties in power do. So should be interesting times ahead. To go back to the cabinet though, so Robert Jenrick and then Suella Braverman announced as Education and Equality. Again, an experienced woman, very intelligent woman, but there is that feeling, in the announcement of 4 ministers or 4 cabinet secretaries, 2 of them, until last month, were Tories. So some Reform supporters saying, this adds to our suspicion that Reform UK is turning into Tories Mark II, the Conservative Party in a different coat. What do you say to objections like that?
I say that I totally understand that concern, and I think it's been a very, very difficult challenge for Nigel Farage as he contemplates how to build a team with the necessary experience to answer that critique. Well, you guys, none of you have ever had any experience in government. I mean, the reality is that Suella Braverman and Robert Jenrick in recent years, let's just take the last 2 years, have been out and out proper right wingers. They ideologically, they belonged for sure in the Reform Party. But absolutely, there's a downside to having prominent Conservatives as part of of the Reform front bench. These are really difficult balances, and I'm very glad that I'm not in Nigel Farage's shoes having to make these judgments. I think it's also worth just saying that I personally don't think there'll be an early election. I understand the kind of theoretical basis on which that might happen. But ultimately, this government will do everything possible to avoid that situation. No government that is going to lose is ever going to hasten that on if they've got any sense. And so if there isn't an early election, we've probably got 3 more years of Nigel Farage having to shape his team. And there could well be changes even to those 4 positions. I don't know whether he said today whether they're permanent or not. He probably doesn't know. How could he? He has to see how it all shakes down. But I think it's the beginnings of a very, very interesting lineup. And I think we'll see more in the weeks to come.
Yeah, of course, there must be more announcements because there were a few people conspicuous by their absence in today's naming and not shaming. They were, of course, Sarah Pochin, Lee Anderson, Danny Kruger, and probably some others as well. I would have thought Dame Andrea Jenkins is worth a look in, and various other luminaries. So clearly that was just the beginning, more announcements to come. I had Ben Apib on at the beginning of the show, and I guess my question to you is, him and Rupert Lowe, Ben says, are in talks. They might unite, so there is a chance that Advance UK and Restore Britain, Rupert's new party, could combine to form a bigger party. I mean, is that kind of... I mean, of course, they would be further right than Reform. Is that a threat to Reform?
There's an argument that it's quite useful to Reform to have really far-right people running political parties. I'm not saying that either Ben Habib or Rupert Lowe are really far-right, but they certainly are likely to attract some of those types on the basis of some of their stated policies. And I know Peter Cardwell discussed that earlier today. I don't think that having lots of little right-wing parties is helpful. It would be silly of me to pretend it is helpful. And there's no doubt that Rupert Lowe has a following. But I don't think that he can take his little... I don't mean that in a patronising way. Let me rephrase that. I don't think that he can take this start-up party much beyond where it's going to get in the next few months. It takes so much work and so many years and so much money, frankly, to build something from nothing to get into any position where you're going to trouble the big players. I just can't see that happening. And this idea that his party is somehow polling at 10%, that is absolute nonsense. You know, if you did a proper large sample poll, I don't know what poll that was based on, by the way. I don't mean to denigrate the polling company, but it would need to be a really large sample poll to come out with that kind of data in any way that I think would be meaningful or credible.
Yeah, I'll just remind you, Nigel Farage was asked about Rupert Lowe at the gathering today, this morning, and was quite tetchy in his response. Have a look at this.
You know, people think, oh, Farage has done it. We'll just set a party up. It'll be marvellous. We'll sweep the next election. It just isn't as easy as that. Now, does he have a profile on X? Yes, he does. Is Elon going to support him? Probably. But you see, you know, when he stood up and said that we've got to consider the mass deportation of entire communities, including those born in the United Kingdom, that just moves way beyond a point of reasonableness, of decency, of morality. And that was the moment at which, you know, I realised we just had to get rid of him and get rid of him as quickly as we could. And I think in terms of the way we dealt with that, we were probably more brutal than the other parties. But you know what? That's the way it's going to be. Thank you.
Do you think, I mean, the veracity of that has been challenged? Rupert Lowe has said that he might consider deporting the families of rape gang members, but I think he would accept that you can't deport people who are born in Britain. They're British. But in sort of setting up the dividing lines between where Reform UK stand on the migrant deportation issue and where perhaps Rupert Lowe stands, perhaps slightly to the right of Reform UK. Do you think that's a wise distinction for Farage to make?
I don't think it's a bad distinction at all. As I said, I think it can be quite helpful. You know, Reform is fed up on every level of being mischaracterised as far right. You know, Reform is a small c traditional, small c conservative party, which showcases the kind of values that the Conservatives used to and why people used to vote Conservative. Reform is not a far-right extremist party, much as its opponents would like to say so. And, you know, with parties that are genuinely to the right of Reform, it begins to introduce or reintroduce some perspective on that argument. I can't say that I particularly wish Rupert Lowe well, save for the fact that anyone who sets up and builds a political party is generally trying to do something good for the country. And it's hard to do. You know, he could just be putting his feet up or working on his farm, whatever, having a nice time, enjoying the fruits of his long labours. He's not a very, very young man. He could just be living it easy. And instead, he's decided to do this for his country. And I happen to heartily disagree with his style, with his tone. And I know a little bit too much of what he's like to work with to think that he could ever be a suitable candidate to lead this country as Prime Minister. But nonetheless, credit where credit's due. He's going for it. Let's see how he gets on.
Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt that both Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib are patriots, but here's a poll that Nigel Farage will enjoy reading. It's just been released. This is new polling, exclusive new polling from JL Partners. These polls, there was one recently, where it's about, do you think the Labour government's doing a good job? Like 90% absolutely terrible, no. 7% don't know, 3% yes. The only thing that interests me about that poll is who are the 3% who thinks Keir Starmer's doing a good job? Extraordinary. Just before you go, Isabel, let's talk about Keir. We spoke about it yesterday, his latest astonishing, humiliating U-turn over the local elections, which have now been restored. 4.5 million people have got their franchise back. They will be allowed to vote for their local councils in the elections in May. That's a good thing, obviously. How do you rate Labour's... I mean, it'll be interesting to see how Reform do against the Green Party. But I think the headline story is, how do you think Labour will do at these local elections?
Well, I think a mark of how Labour thinks Labour will do in these next elections is A, that they tried to stop them happening, and B, that no one wanted to be Prime Minister before those elections. I think that tells you everything you need to know. And I think they will be punished for trying to cancel them. They should be punished for trying to cancel them. And they're now in a hurtling rush to put up credible candidates, as are the other parties. So I do know that Reform carried on as if the elections were going to happen. So it's not quite perhaps on the back foot that Labour perhaps hopes it would be.
I mean, talking of the incompetence of this government, it's quite clear whether or not they took advice first or not is beside the point, that when they said, when they offered all these councils the chance to delay their elections, allegedly for bureaucratic and boundary change reasons, it was unlawful. It was illegal. It was against the law. The government should know that. That's an extraordinary thing for a sitting government to do, to propose something that is not legal. And for that, they deserve to be punished. Isabel, great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. Brilliant stuff. Isabel Oakeshott there, Talks International editor. Now, when we come back, we're going to be talking about Dame, sorry, I almost forgot. Dame Antonia Romeo, who Keir Starmer wants to be his next Cabinet Secretary, the first ever female Cabinet Secretary, but who comes with a lot of very problematical baggage. Many people saying he must not make the same mistake with her as he did with Peter Mandelson, for very different reasons, of course, but he overruled advisers to appoint Mandelson to the position of our ambassador in Washington, very unwisely. He's being advised not to appoint Dame Antonio Romeo. Will he go ahead and ignore that advice? We'll talk about that next. And who the hell is Dame and what's her name? Antonio Romeo. Who are these people? All of them got titles. Sir this, Dame that, you know, I mean, they're sitting there in Westminster sharing out all these stupid awards, dividing up tax money amongst each other for massive, great, overpaid roles. We're being taken for a ride, folks. You know, normal people, those of us in the real world, we don't get damehoods, we don't get knighthoods. Why do this lot get them all the time? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about Dame Antonio Romeo next. Stay tuned.
Join me, Ian Collins, every weekday from 1.
My 12-year-old. Obviously, he won't be 12 then, he'll be 16, but if he's anything like he is now, he shouldn't be anywhere near an election booth. Do you sympathise with him? Is he the victim of the 24-hour news cycle we just spoke of?
I think his failings are internal. He's useless, incompetent, has no political judgment.
Everything you need to know. All the breaking news right here on Talk.
Weekday afternoons from 1 o'clock. Only at the home of common sense.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Ever heard of Dame Antonia Romeo? No, me neither. But apparently she's a massive high flyer, brilliant person. Went to Oxford, you know, went to a private school, all of that. Went to Columbia University, went to the LSE, and has been a high flyer in the civil service. And she went to New York, where she was British consul there. Oh, massive high, brilliant person, brilliant. So much so that Keir Starmer, having sacked the guy he insisted on having just over a year ago as Cabinet Secretary, a guy called Sir Chris Wormald. No, me neither. Who are these people? He's been sacked, and Starmer wants Antonia Romeo. The trouble is she comes with baggage, and more officials in Westminster and around Whitehall are saying that various investigations into her behaviour, particularly when she was in New York, were dropped. These allegations, which she denies and which were never proved, important to stress this, included bullying of staff, harassment and abusing her expenses, spending too much of the taxpayers' pound on herself. None of these investigations came to any fruition, and as things stand officially, she is pure as the driven snow. But insiders are saying these investigations were suspiciously swiftly dropped, in effect swept under the carpet, and that, as such, Ms. Romeo, Dame Antonia, is not fit to be the first female cabinet secretary. At the moment, she's one of 3 people running that show, which is a bit ridiculous in itself. But will she get the gig, or will the critics who say she's not fit for the job prevail and stop her getting it? Let's talk to journalist and broadcaster Robert Taylor. Hello, Robert.
Kevin.
Now, Antonia Romeo, she seems to be problematical. Keir Starmer, who has a habit of overruling his advisers when it comes to the appointment of key positions. I give you Peter Mandelson. I also give you his choice as Cabinet Secretary just over a year ago, Sir Chris Wormold. He was advised that Chris Wormold, you know, again, who the hell are these people? When he was at Housing, was seen by many to have made a right hash of it. And apparently he's a sort of boring little grey man, a bit like Keir Starmer. I think Keir Starmer saw something of himself in this guy, overruled advice, appointed him to be Cabinet Secretary. Just over a year later, oh, no, you've got to go. So he's firing him. He's walking away from his £220,000 a year job with a £260,000 payoff. Which is our money, taxpayers' money. Keir Starmer spraying our money around to protect his own backside, because Chris Wormold is seen as too right-wing by his left-wing backbenchers. So Chris goes, and in comes the chosen one, Keir Starmer's favourite, Antonia Romeo. When she was consul in New York, she was accused of bullying staff, of harassment, and of abusing her expenses. All those investigations never came to any fruition. Her reputation officially is, as I just said, pure as the driven snow. But insiders are saying those investigations, for some reason, were swept under the carpet. Not properly conducted and not properly brought to any conclusion. And as such, this woman is not fit to be the first female cabinet secretary. Starmer's being advised this. Do you think he's going to be stupid enough to overrule this advice?
I think he might well overrule this advice, but I do think he would be extremely stupid to do so. We know, as you've just said, Kevin, how suspect his judgment has been with Mandelson, with Tim Allen, with Sir, as you said, Sir Chris Wormold and all these others. And now he's going to appoint someone. We're led to believe she is the hot favourite to be appointed, when only a few years ago she was subject to the most serious bullying allegations about how she dealt with her expenses, extravagance on the public purse. As you rightly say, Kevin, this is our money. At the very least, there must be serious doubts about Dame Antonia Romeo. And I think if she did get the job, it would be open season to find the people at the Foreign Office who complained about her. I'm sure they won't be slow in coming forward and dishing the dirt, and it will produce yet another crisis for our rather crisis-struck Prime Minister.
To say the least. And, you know, she once apparently claimed business class flights back from New York and then straight back, back to Britain and then straight back the day after to attend the BAFTAs. She loves to rub shoulders with the rich and famous. There's a particularly flattering picture of her having a gay old time, laughing away with the extremely reputable Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein. So there you have a very good pictorial record of the kind of things that Antonia Romeo got up to. Now, this was extraordinary. Last week, a guy called Simon MacDonald, Lord MacDonald as he is now, all these people, if you were... You get in the civil service, you get promoted a few times, and then, you get kicked out and they make you a lord or a sir or a dame. What about the rest of us? I mean, not me, but people like you, Robert.
Not me either.
Yeah, how about a few people who actually don't work for the civil service, getting the odd honour, the odd peerage, the odd knighthood or damehood? I don't say it's probably too much to ask, but there you are. Cronyism. It's what Westminster fires on, isn't it? But anyway, Simon MacDonald, Lord MacDonald as he was, went on to Channel 4 News last week. Actually, we've got the clip here. I'll show you.
Due diligence is vitally important. The Prime Minister has recent bitter experience of doing the due diligence too late. It would be an unnecessary tragedy to repeat that mistake.
I mean, they are saying that she's already been approved as suitable for this job, so why do any more process?
I repeat, the due diligence needs to be thorough. If the candidate mentioned in the media is the one, in my view, the due diligence has some way still to go.
I mean, there's Simon MacDonald letting it be known what he thinks about Antonia Romeo, who used to work for him. He was permanent secretary at the Foreign Office. He was her boss while she was over swanning around in New York, getting accused of bullying, harassment and spending too much of her of the taxpayers' money on herself. Now, he made it very clear. He said, I keep offering my services to the vetting process surrounding, he never named her, but he meant Antonia Romeo, and I've been ignored. He's saying not enough due diligence on this woman. He's saying, clearly, her having worked for him, she's not fit to do this job. Now, with people like him, Lord MacDonald, and others, clearly, there are lots of insiders named in the Times today in a story about her alleged nefarious past. If Starmer ignores all of this, he's going to go down a Mandelson-like road, isn't he, and end up in trouble. I mean, does he never learn?
He appears not to, Kevin. It is incredible. And look, Antonia Romeo hasn't been appointed yet. Maybe he won't. Maybe there'll be such an outcry of irrespective people like Simon MacDonald, who obviously, knows what he's talking about. He worked with Antonia Romeo. If he says that she needs to have further vetting, then you can be sure she does. We all know, don't we, Kevin, that in any organisation there is bullying from time to time from very senior people. And I can tell you from personal experience, the Foreign Office is no exception. I do know that organisation. There is, I'm afraid, bullying there. And what often happens is that the bully gets away with it. I've seen that myself in government and in places like the Foreign Office. So I very much hope that Simon MacDonald's words are taken really seriously in Downing Street. And if there is any doubt about this woman and what she did just, 5, 6, 7 years ago when she was Consul General in New York, I think we need to take that not with a pinch of salt.
I would say, Robert, there are doubts about her. And when Starmer was considering or moving towards appointing Peter Mandelson and was advised against it, when you're appointing someone to such a serious job as our ambassador to the United States of America, if somebody flags up a 1% doubt, you don't give them the job. And if somebody flags up, this is more than a 1% doubt about Antonia Romeo, for God's sake, don't give her the job. If he hasn't learned that, old Starmer, he's even less fit to be our Prime Minister than he already clearly is. Robert, really good to talk to you. Thank you so much. Journalist, broadcaster, columnist Robert Taylor there. Antonia Romeo, Dame Antonia Romeo. Should she get the job? 03444991000. We're going to go to break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk to a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking racket. She is a victim, a survivor. Her name is Ashley Ford Rubright, and she will join us after this break.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, let's go straight over to my next guest. She is a survivor of Jeffrey Epstein's reign of horror. She's a victim. And she's very bravely agreed to come on and talk to us. So a very warm welcome to the show to Ashley Ford Rubright. Hi, Ashley.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for coming on. Now, your experience of the horror of Jeffrey Epstein was brief and yet, I would suggest, terrifying. You were working in a barbecue restaurant in Palm Beach in Florida when a colleague asked you if you'd consider taking $200 to massage an old man. You did that. You saw him. Well, look, you take up the story. What happened?
I saw him twice. And obviously I didn't expect what happened to happen. And the second time when it escalated is when I realized I absolutely can't go back.
So what happened on the first time? I mean, my information is that both times you saw him, or the first time you saw him, you had reason to be concerned by his behaviour, but the second time it turned into, I don't want to go into too many details, but full-scale sexual assault. Would that be a correct assessment of what happened?
The first time was a full-on sexual assault. It was just not in like a violent kind of way.
So when you saw him, Ashley, for the massage, he immediately turned it into something for his own gratification. I mean, were you saying no?
This was about halfway through, and no, in that instance, I wasn't saying no. I wasn't saying anything. I was just frozen and waiting for it to be over.
How old were you, Ashley, then?
15 or 16.
15, maybe. That's
Yes.
That's extraordinary. That is extraordinary. So in some ways, you know, you were naive. You were a kid. Somebody said, "Here's $200 in this for you," and you thought, "Hey, yeah."
Yeah. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah. And can I ask you this then? After your traumatic experience with him the first time, why did you go back to see him again?
I thought it was a fluke. Sarah Kellen, the one that led me up the stairs, like, she was gorgeous. There was gorgeous women by the pool. I didn't really look too closely because I just felt it was rude to stare at somebody's guests when I'm in their house to perform a service. So I couldn't tell you much about the people at the pool, but my point is he's surrounded by all of these beautiful women. I thought, surely he didn't actually just want me. And I also thought, you know, he's very rich and powerful. He has a lot to lose by if this were like something that he did habitually. So I went back thinking, surely it won't be like it was last time.
And it was?
It was, except more so.
So the second time was a far more serious sexual assault?
Yes.
Just a physical sexual assault. How did you feel after the second time?
I was horrified. I realized if it already escalated to that degree, and he did the same, you know, sort of thing the second time meeting me, like, this is a very slippery slope.
And I don't know if you did you tell your parents or your mother or your father about this?
And I told my high school best friend, but, you know, he's just as naive as I was. And I didn't really talk about it for years.
So you're just a little kid, really. Because I mean, I would say, if you were 25 or something, I would say, did you report this to the police? But you must have been in a state of fear.
Yeah, I just thought, we don't need to talk about this, and I will just move on like it didn't happen, which didn't happen.
But now you're talking about it because you think that, well, obviously he's no longer with us, thank God, but there are a lot of powerful men who were wrapped up in his sordid world, in his sex trafficking world. You went to his mansion in Palm Beach in Florida. You just said there are beautiful women all around the pool. And I think you said in the past that anybody who went to that house must have known something strange was going on, that this was not all above board, this was not right. Did you sense that when you went there?
No, I didn't realize that until much later, and I realized there were thousands of us, and that he had a girl brought to him at least 3 times a day. And so thinking about those two aspects specifically, there's no way that people wouldn't have known, or at least suspected.
But in both of your encounters with him, let's talk about the first time. You just went to see him, he was ready for his mash dance. What did he say to you?
He was asking me a lot of questions just about my personal life, what I like to do, if I had any extracurricular activities, how I was doing in school, what my home life was like, if I had a boyfriend. He got a bit more personal when it came to that, asking me what I wanted to do with my life in the future, if I was interested in massage, that he would send me to a massage school so I could get fully certified, and that he had just flown a girl out to pick up another girl that he put through massage school in Asia somewhere.
So he was sort of luring you in, which is presumably half the reason you went back. You were thinking, maybe I've got an opportunity here.
Yeah, you know, and like I said, I just thought maybe it was a fluke that first time, that he just really needed to get it out.
Yeah. And do you... because what's interesting about what you're saying is I spoke to another victim on our show who actually went to the island, and she said exactly what you said, that he sat down with her, and that he was charming. He asked about her family, her past, how she'd done at school, what her plans for her life were. So it seems that was his the way he operated, but you found him sort of ostensibly charming.
I wouldn't say ostensibly charming. I would say more charismatic.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Now you're speaking. Yeah, you said that obviously you parked this and you thought you'd never speak about it, but you are bravely speaking about it now. Why have you decided to tell of your harrowing experience with this monster Epstein?
Well, after Virginia had passed away, one of us said that her voice was equal to 15 of ours. And it kind of clicked for me that, this story isn't going away, and we still have no accountability and justice. And I had a lot of time to be quiet and just sit in the shadows with all of this. But it was my turn to sort of speak up. I've gotten older, and I'm just not as afraid anymore of what people think or say.
And what about what happened to you when you were just a kid, 15, maybe 16? Did it have a lasting effect on you?
So I just started counseling about maybe a year and a half ago. So I'm really just starting to figure out the impact, at least figure it out in a way that I could explain it.
So in other words, it did have an effect on you that only now you're beginning to realise you've got something to process here. Can I ask you, Ashley, what do you feel about, our Prince Andrew, or Prince Andrew as he then was, now he's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. He's been called to testify to Congress. There's a potential police investigation here in Britain of his activities. The allegations against him are shocking. That Jeffrey Epstein was sending his sex trafficking victims across the Atlantic to see the then Prince Andrew at Buckingham Palace, where he is accused of using the palace like his own personal brothel. Now, he's just one of the powerful men surrounding Jeffrey Epstein in his heyday. Do you think that our prince, or as he was, the then Prince Andrew, should be brought to justice? Do you think he should A, testify to Congress, and B, be investigated by the British police?
Yes, A and B.
Yeah. And to explain why?
Because we deserve to know what was happening.
Yeah, exactly right. And of course, it's clear, I appreciate you coming on, by the way. Very brave of you, and thank you. But I assume that you've made yourself available to the authorities as well, as, both of our nations, America and Britain, attempt to try and investigate what this guy Epstein got up to, because it's extraordinary, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah. Ashley, stay strong. Hopefully we'll talk again, and thank you very much for coming on to my show. Ashley Ford-Rubright there, Epstein survivor, 15 years old, sexually assaulted, kid, goes back, sexually assaulted, much worse, second time. That's what this guy Epstein did. They go, he was just a puppeteer, playing chess with people. But that's the second account that we've had on this show. I think in 3 weeks, just about 3 weeks ago, we had another victim of him actually sexually assaulting his victims, sexually assaulting them physically. So he wasn't just a man who offered other powerful men women for their fun and delectation. He was a sexual assaulter, possibly a rapist. So Ashley Ford-Rubright there. When we come back, let's talk sport with sport head of content at The Sun, Mike Anstead. That next. Stay tuned.
breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. So Saka signed a new deal with Arsenal, and he's going to get almost as much as I do. Mike, 300 grand a week.
I can't believe you're only on 300 grand a week, Kev. But
Well, with expenses, I'm going to get a little bit more than him, but, you know...
Sounds like the renegotiation coming along for you.
Yeah, I need contract talks.
Exactly.
I mean, in football terms, he's worth it, isn't he?
I think so, yeah. I mean, look, he's not having his best season, Saka. But look, Arsenal top of the league. They could go 7 points clear against Wolves tomorrow night. So if he helps them get to the title, first title in 22 years, he's worth it. Look, he's a homegrown player, which we know any club means a lot more. He's Arsenal through and through. He's their star player. He's an England star. So look, he's getting a lot of money. This new deal, 300 grand a week, works out to about 78 million, give or take a few quid.
Do you know what he's on at the moment, by any chance?
I think he's on a decent lump, but he's getting a considerable rise to where he is now. So it'll be, it might not be quite double, but he certainly becomes the best played player at the club. It's not a bad contract for a 24-year-old, but look, he deserves it because
he's a game changer, isn't he?
He's a game changer. He's the face of the club, carries a lot of weight, expectation, being a homegrown player. And look, like I say, Arsenal had a long time without winning the Premier League, and it could well finally happen this year. So
24 years old, 300 grand. It's all right, isn't it? Let's talk about Chelsea and Leeds. This is a video you would have seen, Mike. This is the Chelsea players arriving at Hull for their FA Cup tie on Saturday. They won this 4-0. And there's these little kids all waiting to see the big Premier Leaguers. And every single one of the Chelsea fans just ignores them. You know, there's an argument that maybe some of them didn't spot them, but there's too many of them not to notice at all. Now, the joke about this is the Chelsea PR department, their publicity department, put this video out. They might like to think again about that. Now, that was, you know, a lot of people, Sharon Davis included, putting out on Twitter, that was all very sad, sort of disturbing footage there. Now, here's the Leeds players. This guy, this is, somebody's put this out. It wasn't Leeds themselves. Somebody took a picture of a little kid outside Ellen Road as the Leeds players arrived. Have a look at this. So this is how you genuinely treat a kid. Look, there's a little kid. Look at these Leeds players. Look, look. Every single one of them making the effort. Some of them making a really big effort. This one, I think this one really goes over and gives him a, you know. So that's the way. It's, you know, it's just, it's not much. Look at them. Every single one. Every single one. And that makes that little kid's day, doesn't it? It's not much to ask.
Absolutely. Look. Some of these kids, you know, I don't know how old the kids are in some of these pictures, but, you know, it absolutely makes their day. If a Premier League player comes up, shakes their hand, gives them a high five, fist bump, whatever it is, smile, they're going to remember that for a long time.
Look at this one. Really take. Look at that one.
Absolutely. And look, but I think that video shows that footballers do care. This is the. I'm not going to sit here and say the Chelsea players don't care, because I think there's reasons why they didn't stop. I actually genuinely believe they didn't actually see the players because the angle of it. My problem. Well,
you can't say that about Liam.
But he's in his eye. Like, look, I'm not here to launch an individual defence. I don't know what's going on here. But he used to play for the club. He's seen a female member of staff who used to work with the club, seen it. But my biggest problem with this is the Chelsea PR department have decided to put this out, whereas actually I think the better thing would be put down the phone and say to half a dozen of those players, you're going to walk around the corner in 10 yards and there's going to be 6 Hull fans, all aged under the age of 10. Just take 10 seconds to go and high-five them, fist-pump them, ask them how they are, whatever. That's more important, because that means a lot more than just putting out a video that a lot of people are jumping on. But
yeah, we've asked Chelsea for a comment. We haven't heard back from them, but I did suggest yesterday that a nice idea on the part of the Chelsea PR department would be to find out the name of every single one of those little kids. There's only about 12 of them, and send them a signed autographed picture of the entire team. It would be a nice idea, wouldn't it, to sort this out. As you say, yeah, they're focused on their game. Sometimes they're in their own world. They got their earphones on, listening to their music. It just wasn't a good look, and a lot of people said so on Twitter. So we'll leave that hanging there. Jose Mourinho has renewed he aims to topple Real Madrid and renew that rivalry. What's going on?
Yeah, so Jose famously, just last month, was the man who got his goalkeeper to score in the 97th minute for a 4th goal for Benfica. Dumped Real Madrid into the knockout phase of the Champions League, and here we are at the knockout phase. So the draw then pitched Benfica and Real Madrid together again. So Jose's now got 2 more goes at Real Madrid. And look, he just loves winding them up. Real Madrid are the European kings, as he acknowledges, but he will take so much satisfaction if he can knock them out. And you'd probably give him a good chance of doing it, because Benfica, they're not a great team, but if he can fire them up for this, and I think Real Madrid are...
They're not at their best,
They're not at their best at the moment. They've got a couple of injuries. Bellingham's out injured at the moment. They've got a fractured squad that has already seen Xabi Alonso get eaten up alive there and chucked out. So they've essentially got an interim manager in Arbeloa there at the moment. So he'll fancy his chances. And look, we just love Jose. He doesn't go away. He's kind of lingering there. We all still love him. We all still want him back in the Premier League one day. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, well, in the wonderful world of politics, we've got Donald Trump delivers a story every 10 minutes, and in football you got Jose Mourinho.
Absolutely, yeah, bring him back. You'd have him at Fulham, wouldn't you, Kev?
You got to be joking. In a heartbeat. Exactly. Mike Angstead, head of sport content at The Sun, thank you very much. Excellent sport review there. We're going to go to break now, and when we come back, talking of Reform UK and all their defectors from the Tory party, we'll be talking to one of them, Andrew Rosindell, who defected only recently. He is the former Tory MP for Romford and now the Reform MP for Romford. He'll have lots to say about what's been going on today. So stay tuned for that. See you in a minute.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. This is Drive Time. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan, and in the studio, Reform UK, of course, are making all the headlines today, as they usually do. Today, Nigel Farage announced the beginning of his, what you might call his shadow cabinet, and there were two defectors from the Tories in that lineup. One, of course, Robert Jenrick, who will be, if Reform UK win the next election, Chancellor of the Exchequer, and the other was Suella Braverman, former Home Secretary, Tory Home Secretary, who will be the Secretary of State for Education and Equalities. Now, in the studio, I always hesitate to call these people defectors. Let's say another of the Tory members who have crossed the bridge. He is the Reform UK's, or now Reform UK's MP for Romford, Andrew Rosindell. Welcome.
Hello, Kevin. Great to be with you.
Great to have you. Well, first of all, let's talk about today. You were there as Nigel Farage unveiled the first of his shadow cabinet. Your thoughts on Robert Jenrick? A lot of us thought that Richard Tice might get Chancellor. Any thoughts?
I think Richard Tice has got the perfect role because of his background, business, trade and energy, and future Deputy Prime Minister. So I think Richard's got a brilliant role, and it's perfectly suited to his background and his knowledge. Robert Jenrick is someone who served in the previous government, understands how government works. I think he'll be a superb Chancellor of the Exchequer. So you've got two people using their talents to best effect. I think Nigel's made a great choice.
What I always say about people like you and Jenrick, Suella Braverman, and Sarah Posey, and all these people, former Tories, a lot of our audience go, oh, Reform UK is turning into the Conservative Party with a different coat on. It's, Tories Mark II and all that. What I would say is that for all of you who've switched over, you could tell politically that you were not comfortable with the new left-wing Conservative Party, which, let's face it, has become over the years, and you were far more suited to the Reform UK outlook. So when people say, oh, it's more and more old Tories, I think that's slightly unfair, because you guys felt uncomfortable where you were, and you've come now. I think it was Suella Braverman who said when she defected, I feel like I've come home. When you were in the Tories, and you were always slated as someone who might switch to Reform, and Robert Jenrick was still there and Suella Braverman, did you ever sort of chat in the cloisters about how you might soon switch colours?
Look, Kevin, the Conservative Party, as they say, is a broad church. The trouble is, it became too broad, and it finished up having people in the Conservatives who frankly were Liberal Democrats. Then you had those who believed in nothing except their political careers, and the rest of us were proper Conservative traditionalists, Margaret Thatcher supporters. But over the years, when Mrs Thatcher went, the party gradually moved into a very mushy direction. So none of us could really determine what the party stood for. The last election, you wore the blue rosette, you didn't really know what it stood for. And the last election did it for me. I knocked on door after door in Romford, and people said to me, what do you stand for? What does the Conservative Party believe in now? And I think that realisation that the Conservative Party has become sort of like a technocratic party of the establishment, rather than standing for something clear and strong for the country, meant that people like myself, Robert Jenrick, Suella, and I think others, feel that Reform UK is now taking over the ground that the Conservative Party once occupied. So it's no longer the Margaret Thatcher Conservative Party, it's now Reform UK with Nigel Farage.
Yeah, the lady was not for turning, but the modern Tories are for turning. When you were in the Conservative Party, when they were in government, what did you feel about the migration situation, the migrant crisis, you know, that Boris Johnson, the Boris wave, I think it was 3.8 million people he let in legally while they were still coming illegally. And the Tories never seemed to be even that bothered about what was going on. Boris Johnson was very shoulder shrugging about it. The public were getting more and more concerned, and I think this is one of the main reasons reform is rising and rising, is because it reflects the fears and the concerns of the public in terms of the migrant crisis. How did you feel when the Tory party didn't seem to give much of a damn about it?
Look, I was on the backbenches. I was never made a minister because I'm way too outspoken and would not have supported much of what the government was doing. The problem with the Conservative Party is that we said at every election we would tackle these issues. Immigration was in every manifesto. Every time we said we will reduce immigration. David Cameron said it, and every Prime Minister since said the same thing. When in office, they did the opposite. They actually failed completely to do what they promised to the British people. So I was appalled. And in my constituency in Romford, not far from here, people were saying to me all the time, you've broken your word. We voted for you to deal with immigration and you failed to do it. We voted for Brexit, believing that would also control immigration. The opposite happened. We had millions of people coming into our country. Now, most of those people are on benefits. They bring their dependents in. They're on benefits. They use the health service, the schools. We need more police, crime taking place. And it's just no end to it. And I think people are horrified. And people worry about what this country is going to be like in the next 10 or 20 years if we don't get a grip on the immigration situation very quickly. And I think that's why people are now moving in their droves to vote for Reform UK.
And I presume that this narrative took a part in your farewell conversation with Kemi Badenoch. How did that go?
Well, I'm not sure I had a farewell conversation, but I did go and see her last October. So during the party conference, there's a lot of rumours about me going Reform UK, and to be frank, I hadn't decided to go Reform UK, only decided literally on the day, on the 18th of January. I hadn't made up my mind at all. It was always a possibility because I'm a friend of Nigel's. I've known him for 25 years. I agree with pretty much everything he stands for. So Reform UK is a natural fit for me. But we never had a conversation with Kemi when I left. But I did go and see her in October after conference. And I said to her, for goodness sake, we need to bring the right together, because if the Conservatives and Reform don't come together, the risk of a far-left coalition of Labour, Liberals, Greens, SNP, that's a realistic possibility. But she had no interest in even speaking to Nigel about any type of accommodation, arrangement or pact. And for me, that is putting party before country. I believe that we should rescue this country from the calamity of the socialist government we've now got. We need to get this mob out, and if it means working together with like-minded parties, so be it. She rejected that. So for me, the only solution really was to row behind Nigel. Reform UK now is the only option. The Conservatives have lost the plot. Nigel's got a clear vision for this country. He knows what he wants to do and he's determined to achieve it. And, you know, I think the British people are behind him, and I think the next election they're going to vote Reform UK, and I think the country needs radical change, and that's what Nigel offers.
But there is this danger, isn't there, as you alluded to, that, you know, crazy Ed Miliband could become the leader of the Labour Party, get together with Zach Polanski. Can you imagine Ed Miliband, Prime Minister, Zach Polanski in the cabinet, along with Angela Rayner, all that lot? There is this possibility that Labour, the Greens, Lib Dems, probably a ragtag of those various GARs and independent MPs could get together and numerically threatened Reform. And there is furthermore the possibility that if Reform don't form some kind of pact with the Tories, and maybe, who knows, Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib as well, that they could be outnumbered at the next election. Are the right two fractured? Do they need to all come together?
So they do. You're quite right, Kevin, because the prospect of a far-left government with Labour losing the election, but being propped up in government by a load of Lib Dems, a load of Greens, potentially these Gaza independents, plus SNP, Plaid Cymru, SDLP, and goodness knows who else. It's a frightening prospect. And so the right does need to come together, but they need to join Reform UK. So, you know, if I was on the show 6 months ago, I'd have said, look, let's work it out, let's have a pact, forget it. The Conservatives have rejected any prospect of some kind of coming together. So what has to happen now is that people that are determined to stop this far left government, which potentially could come into office by default, because our electoral system could deliver that, the only way to stop that kind of far left government is to vote for Reform UK at the next election. Conservatives now need to do the patriotic thing and join and vote Reform UK.
So but potentially you would support, if numerically it was required, the Tories or Reform forming a pact, with an electoral pact with the with Reform.
Well, after the election, who knows what will happen? You know,
before the election.
Well, look,
you'd have to do no point doing the pact after.
I agree with that, and I argued for this for the last, well, literally since the last election. But the Conservative Party that I used to be a member of and was for 45 years rejected that prospect. They didn't want to know. In fact, all they did was insult Nigel. They attacked Reform UK. They weren't interested. And I was appalled because, to me, they were putting party interest before national interest. National interest is rescuing this country from the calamity of the socialist government that we've now got. Kemi wasn't interested. In fact, all they did was throw mud at Nigel, and I was, quite frankly, sick of it. Nigel's a good man. He's a decent man, and he loves this country as we all do. And ultimately, he will be Prime Minister, not Kemi Badenoch. So she needs to row behind him, not the other way round. Yeah. But frankly, I think it's done. The Conservative Party's done. What now needs to happen is that loyal Conservative voters, of which I was for 45 years, I knew Margaret Thatcher, she campaigned for me, she helped to get me elected in 2001. I think that true Conservatives now need to, en bloc, vote Reform UK and join Reform UK. It's the only way we're going to get that strong majority to rescue our country after the next election.
Nigel Farage has made it clear that he's going to raise the drawbridge on Tory defectors fairly soon. Do you think there are any more Conservative MPs who may follow you?
There might be some, yes. I mean, I haven't...
Have you talked to any?
I've spoken to a number of MPs on Labour side and Conservative side who understand what's going on and are sympathetic to what Nigel Farage is trying to achieve for our country. Whether they're going to defect, I don't know. That's a matter for them and Nigel to discuss. But I do think there are others. But as Nigel said today in the conference, the press conference that we had earlier this morning, I think there's a limit. I don't think he wants all of them. I think there's a very small number of potential defectors that actually Reform UK would want. Look, we don't want people who are careerists, you know, jumping ship from the sinking Tory ship to join Reform UK. We want genuine people that believe in the right things, that are going to support Nigel to get this country into a better place. So yes, there are some, but I think it's quite limited. There might be a few more, but I couldn't say who.
Have you, no, I'm sure you wouldn't, have you spoken to any of them? Have they asked you, so what's it like then?
Yeah, they do. But you know,
what do you say? What do you reply?
The whips are watching. Yeah. So when I'm in the Commons and, you know, friends of mine in the Conservative Party talk to me, they're doing it looking around, you know, just in case the whips are seeing us
So when they ask you then, what's it like in Reform land, what do you say?
It's brilliant. The best decision I've ever made. I mean, I've had a whirlwind of a month since I defected 1 month ago, and its whole thing is so refreshing. So first of all, I'm free to say what I truly think. I'm not reading from a script anymore and being given the lines by central office. Because in Reform UK, we're of one mind. We are actually together in what we believe in for our country. We don't have this sort of left-wing wing and the sort of non-entity careerist wing and the right wing. We don't have all this muddle. We know what we stand for, we know what we believe in. Nigel gives direction, but we agree with Nigel. So there isn't this constant conflict that I struggled with within the Conservative Party. You know, I'm sitting in a studio, and on that side you've got someone who's from my party saying something that's very different to what I'm saying. Now, in Reform, we're saying the same thing because we believe in the same things.
You naturally think
it's a natural thing.
Rupert Lowe, he formed his, or he turned his movement to restore Britain into a party last Friday. You've also got Ben Habib, Advance UK, his party. Both of them, of course, former reformers who, shall we say, have issues with Nigel Farage these days. As two parties of the right, do they present a threat to Reform UK?
So, Kevin, as Nigel said today, that he's counted as about 11 parties on the right. There's lots of other parties, there's heritage parties, there's quite a few of them that have been formed. Sorry, this country's interests have got to come first. You can't, under our electoral system, have a multitude of right-of-centre parties. If you do that, you split the vote and you give Labour, Greens, Liberals, SNP and all the rest of these far-left parties the chance that they might scrape through over that 326 line. 326 MBs is what is needed to get that majority. So I say to all those people that are joining these splinter parties, it won't work, and it's actually not in the interests of our country. The only way we're going to rescue Britain is to vote Reform UK.
Do Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib irritate Nigel Farage? Because he was asked about Rupert Lowe today and it did seem a bit tetchy.
Look, I've only just joined Reform UK in the last month, so when Rupert was a member of Reform UK and when Ben was a member of Reform UK, and I know them both, they are people of views that we would share in many ways, but frankly it doesn't work having splinter parties. Everyone needs to unite behind Nigel. He's the man to take this country forward. He's the man that's going to be Prime Minister, and the best thing in our national interest is for everybody to work to ensure that Reform UK get that majority. So I don't know about what's gone on in the past. All I care about is the future, and the future is a change of government, a government that's prepared to stand up for Britain, be radical, because we do need radical change, and the only party that's going to do that is Reform UK, led by Nigel Farage.
And if it was possible, would it be a good idea to accept Rupert Lowe and Ben Habib back into the Reform fold?
That's beyond my pay grade. Only Nigel can decide
I knew you wouldn't
that.
answer that. I knew you wouldn't answer that. Let me ask you a last question away from Reform and the Tories. Yesterday, the Prime Minister, such as he is, staged, we're trying to work it out, we're not sure whether it was his 14th, his 15th or his 16th U-turn, but whatever it was way too many. Ridiculous. Another U-turn, this time on the local elections. Looks like he either overruled advice or didn't know that their proposal to delay these elections was actually unlawful. He's advised that if Reform UK's lawsuit gets to court, he's going to lose, so he U-turns again. I know for a fact that that was the final straw for a lot of Labour MPs. That's it. He's finished, isn't he?
Nigel was looking forward to his day in court on Thursday. He's disappointed he doesn't have to go now, because it's thanks to Nigel and Reform UK that the Prime Minister has been forced into this U-turn. And frankly, it's a disgrace that a Prime Minister of the United Kingdom was prepared to deny the British people the right to vote in their local elections, to choose who runs their local council, on some pretext that there's reform of local government coming in at some point in the future. So it is a humiliation for
Turns
Keir
out
Starmer.
that was unlawful.
Well,
their
absolutely.
position, their proposal was unlawful.
Well, absolutely. Well, it hasn't gone to court, but it turns out that it was likely to be unlawful, and therefore Keir Starmer's position, I think, is absolutely untenable.
He's gone, isn't he?
Of course he's gone, but you know, the Labour Party don't want to get rid of him today because they want him to carry the can for the defeat that's coming on the 7th of May, and then they'll get rid of him. And then who are we going to get? Angela Rayner, Ed Miliband, who knows? But it'll be someone probably, I don't think Wes has got a chance.
Not
the
now.
Labour's far
Peter
too...
Mandelson's best mate.
He won't get it. It will be a more left-wing replacement for Keir Starmer, and that's a disaster for our country.
It really is. Well, Andrew, brilliant to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming in, and keep in touch. That's Andrew Rosindell, MP, Reform UK's MP for Romford, former Tory. Brilliant stuff. Let me know what you think of what he was saying. 0344 499 1000. He believes Reform UK can win the next election with or without the Tories, and that the Tories are being pretty much intransigent about the very idea of some kind of pact between the two main right-wing parties. So Andrew says that the Reform UK can do it themselves. Do you think he's right? 0344 499 1000. When we come back, we're going to talk about North Eye Prison, which was slated to become another massive accommodation centre for migrants, but the Home Office has wasted millions and millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money, and now they've given it away and said, oh, we're not going to do it after all. So welcome to the migrant crisis, folks. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Some breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
That's something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, does these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about North Eye. This is a huge, disused prison, former prison near Bexhill-on-Sea in Sussex, inland from there. It's quite near a village, and those villagers and the people in the local area were dismayed when the Home Office said, right, we bought this place and we're going to convert it into a massive great accommodation centre for migrants. There was a massive campaign by the locals to stop this, and it succeeded. But along the way, the Home Office wasted loads of our money buying this place and then selling it at a huge loss. Let's talk to the boss of the No to North Eye campaign, the triumphant No to North Eye campaign, Nigel Jacklin. Welcome, Nigel.
Hi, good evening. I think I'm relieved as well as triumphant.
Relieved, good. Now, tell us exactly the chronology of all of this, because I've got some skin in this game, because I remember I kind of broke this story several years ago. And the facets of it sort of defy belief. You know, the Home Office sort of spending a fortune on it, selling it or buying it from developers, then selling it at a loss. And why did they come to the conclusion, Nigel, that this could not be turned into an accommodation centre for migrants?
Well, so the chronology from our point of view started in March 2023 when they announced that they were thinking about using it to house asylum seekers, 1,200 men. But actually it started probably a couple of years before that when Clear Springs Ready Homes were involved, and then miraculously in between time some private investors bought it. So the decision to not use it, in theory, was taken in December 2024. So we did 9 protests. We petitioned the local council. The MP chose not to stand for re-election as he had kind of supported it. And then there was the public accounts inquiry, which you referred to, alluded to earlier, because the Home Office paid £15 million to investors who'd bought it for £6 million a year earlier. Now, the decision to not use it, I think, was, let's say, business case, politics, and opposition. It's a difficult site. It needed a lot of work.
There was an asbestos issue, I believe, among other things.
Yeah. And actually, the Home Office, I think, have made the private investors pay remediation costs for asbestos. So the advice that we got actually was that the asbestos was a small problem, not a big problem, but we didn't tell anyone that.
Yeah.
And it's also a bit like Clonelly was. It's got a single entrance that's easy to block, but we never got that far because they never started work. No shovels worked. No work started at all. But local residents have been in uncertainty for 2 or 3 years. No consultation by the Home Office, no communication. Absolutely appalling.
Which is exactly the situation at Crowborough, where their local army camp, training camp, is being turned into a massive migrants accommodation centre, and the locals there say, we just get no communication, no information. The Home Office just won't talk to us. Now, it was the previous government, the Tory government, who bought North Eye with a view to sticking asylum seekers into it for over £15 million. That was more than twice what the seller had paid for it 1 year before. So some developers bought it for £7 million. The government, a year later, buys it for £15 million. It's very important. Got to develop it for asylum seekers. Now, you guys, Jeff Newman is your fellow campaigner. I spoke to at length many times about this. You guys, of course, campaigned against it. It would be terrible for the local area. So that was one factor. But I think the other factor is the government, having paid £15 million for this site, increasingly realised that it just was impossible. It was not a possibility to develop this, to turn this into a viable accommodation centre. The costs would have been astronomical. So they were spending £15 million on this hopeless site, bad for the local area, and just never suitable for the purpose the Home Office had in mind. This is a sort of uber shambles, isn't it, on the part of the government?
Yeah, and we attended the Public Accounts Committee inquiry into North Eye in December 24, and the only heartening thing was the fact that the new intake Labour MPs were genuinely shocked about the incompetence and intransigence of the Home Office. They really didn't believe how useless they were. But I think they've probably got used to it by now.
Yeah, I think we all get used to this about this government. How many migrants were they planning to put into North Eye had they have ever got it together?
In the beginning, it was 1,200 and it would have been open, but then they reduced that to, I think, about 800 and it would have been secure, closed accommodation. So they brought in a special project manager who we met at the inquiry, who was in charge of detained accommodation. I think she used to work for the prison service. And we actually spoke to her about legal challenges and everything. They're not worried about legal challenges. And I don't have much hope for the Crowborough legal challenge.
Yeah, no, everybody gets rowed over in this respect. And that's a hell of a lot of migrants you would have got, isn't it? Maybe as many as 1,200. Just a little quick word, if you don't mind, Nigel, about the local area and why it was never suitable to have as many as 1,200 migrants living there.
North Eye is 50 houses. It's on the edge of Little Common, which is on the edge of Bexhill. So it's a very quiet place, lots of families, elderly resident. It's just peaceful and quiet. And people they didn't not just want it, they also don't want them to be in the UK. It wasn't a NIMBY thing.
Yeah.
There's widespread opposition to illegal immigration in the area. They don't want them anywhere.
But it's an infrastructure thing, isn't it? You have an influx suddenly of 800 or 1,200 young men. It's a very hard thing to deal with, which is what the poor people of Crowborough are having to tackle right now. Well, listen, Nigel, excellent news. You won. Yeah. Congratulations. And along the way, the government wasted millions and millions of pounds of taxpayers' money. Isn't that special? Great to talk to you, Nigel. Take care. Nigel, Jacqueline there from the No to North Eye campaign. So that's a rare triumph of the people over the government. It was a little bit like Crowborough. It was the Home Office saying, we're going to impose all these migrants on you, to the local people around Bexhill, whether you like it or not. And then it turns out that the prison that they wanted to convert was in such a state of dilapidation, so full of asbestos, it would have cost an absolute fortune. So having bought the place for 15 million quid, they've now farmed it off and we've lost a load of money. It's amazing, isn't it? Next up, let's talk about Crazy Ed Miliband again. He's been making, he's made a pact, a clean air pact, with the gormless governor of California, Gavin Newsom. What is the point of this? Donald Trump is furious. It's a sort of green energy agreement between us, Britain, and the state of California. And it turns out that this is the 12th state in America that our government has formed a clean air, green energy pact with. What for? What is the point? You know, why annoy the president of the free world, the leader of the free world, for no reason except to virtue signal about green claptrap? We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Greg Swenson from the Republican Overseas Organisation here in London is in the studio. Hi, Greg.
Great to see you, Cam.
Good to see you. This concerns your president, Donald Trump, and the gormless governor of California. Our equally gormless Nut Zero secretary, Crazy Ed Miliband, has signed a green energy deal with California, with the governor, Gavin Newsom. It seems to me there's no real point to this apart from a bit of virtue singing. Yeah. Oh, we all care about the environment. You're a Democrat, I'm Labour. Let's get together, you know, let's get married, basically. Now, the president Trump is very fed up about this. He says it's inappropriate. Why is the British government doing a deal with a particular American state? He says it's inappropriate. He calls Gavin Newsom, accurately in my view, a loser. But what struck me about this turns out to be the 12th deal that this government, this British Labour government, has struck with individual American states. You can bet your bottom dollar every single one of them are Democrat states.
Right, of course.
And irritating the hell out of the president.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this?
Well, I mean, to be fair, the Republican governors were doing it when Biden was president. And I feel like they were trapped because the Biden government had so much regulation and they were so hostile to job creators and so hostile to the private sector, especially the energy sector. And so now there's been a little bit of a payback where now these blue state governors, Democrat state governors, want to do the same thing because they have a friend now in the Labour government. Remember when during the Biden years we had a Tory government, and so a lot of these deals were done with Kemi Badenoch when she was trade secretary, or I can't remember the exact position, but so at the time I thought that was good because more trade is good, but I think that in this case it is, as you said, virtue signaling.
Yeah.
There will be no economic benefit from this, and it will just wreck the economies even more than they've already been wrecked because of the boutique climate issues of these left-leaning governors.
It's ridiculous. This deal, Energy Secretary Ed Miliband signed this agreement with Governor Gavin Newsom, and this is what it's for. Really annoying the president, and we're supposed to have a special relationship. Now, that relationship, I think sometimes, it's fair enough to threaten it if you've got a serious issue that you disagree with Trump on. But this is what this deal with Gavin Newsom was for. It was to deepen cooperation across clean energy, climate action, and protecting nature. What is the point of pissing off the president for that nonsense?
And these MOUs are meaningless, as you might guess. But also, of course they picked green energy and net zero. That's their thing. And whereas when the Republicans were doing it during the Biden years, they were actually pro-business. They were pro-trade. And so you could say what you want about tariffs, but much of the relationship with the U.S. and the UK is positive. Like the lowest tariffs of all the trade deals that the U.S. has done, there's a special place for the UK. I wish that Keir Starmer would appreciate that. Surely Gavin Newsom doesn't appreciate that.
Yeah, I think this is very unwise what we're doing. I didn't realise we were doing this. As you say, well, as I say, it's just a virtue, vacuous virtues.
And there's one of two things will happen.
We're wonderful. We care about the planet.
Yes.
We care about clean air.
And one of two things will happen. Either nothing, and it's just an MOU that has no credibility or meaning, or two, it will be more economic destruction in the UK and California. I mean, from living there, they've always been a little nutty, but they have gone completely off the wall with this net zero stuff. It is so much more expensive to drive a car, to go to work, to buy petrol in California than it is anywhere else in the country. It is really destructive to the working people and to the economy.
And does not California, thanks to Gavin Newsom's crazy policies, teeter on the edge of power outages?
That's coming, and so we've had brownouts in California for decades, and because it's been mismanaged completely. So why would the UK want to replicate something so destructive that's happened in California? And it's already the case that the energy costs here for businesses are 4 times what they are in the US. I'm not sure it's 4 times what they are in California. I'm guessing they're on par, but. This is really outrageous, and it's a shame because who suffers the most are the people of the UK and the people of California.
What's interesting is maybe Miliband was saying to Gavin, can you tell me about power outages? They call them outages in America. Here we call them power cuts. California is going to get them. And we're going to get them. Maybe Miliband was saying, what we're going to do when we have to cut the power to our people? Because Miliband has been warned. This story emerged yesterday.
Yeah.
He's got this crazy target to meet net zero by 2030. If he's to do that, there's only one way to do it. He's going to have to start imposing power cuts on us. If he does that, he will not realise the biggest certainty in politics. If you cut people's power, you will lose the next election.
Yeah, and he doesn't care about that. He cares about his, his circle of friends in Islington or wherever. But I do think that we should look at California as an example of what can happen. And there are, the less dramatic version of power cuts is brownouts, where they actually cut back the power during peak periods. So if you're running your air conditioning, good luck with that.
Yeah. TV picture will be grainy.
And as you know, air conditioning is pretty important in California in the summer months. And so, this is, again, really destructive to the economies and to the people of the UK and of California.
Yeah, crazy things can happen in California. I'm here to tell you, when I was in LA, we got this warning about the water once. You may see some small shrimps in your water. Don't worry. They're completely harmless. You can drink it. And sure enough, you pull a tap out, there's all these small mollusks swimming around in the water, and they're telling us we can drink it. We didn't.
Right, but to their credit, historically, the Southern California was a desert and had no water and no green and no anything, and the great American settlers of California turned it into an inhabitable place, and it's a great story. But as soon as the leftist maniacs took over, it's really deteriorated. Now people are moving out of California faster than you can rent a U-Haul.
Exactly. Well, that's what they call Newsom, isn't it? The U-Haul.
Yeah, that's right.
The U-Haul governor of California.
Yeah.
Because every U-Haul of these people renting trailers, putting all their possessions in there and driving to Arizona or Texas to live somewhere
You can
else.
rent a U-Haul in Texas and drive it for free to California, and they'll pay you. They'll pay a college kid. They'll pay a college kid $500 to drive it back to California for the next person leaving that horrible state.
It's a booming business getting out of California.
It's unbelievable.
Now, just quickly, the president said Gavin is a loser. Everything he's touched turns to garbage. His state has gone to hell, and his environment work is a disaster. A last word from you, Greg, because the Trump goes on to say that it's inappropriate for Newsom to be striking agreements with the British government. It's madness for the British government to piss off the president like that, isn't it?
Of course. And all the first of your comments, they're all indelicate and a little insensitive, but absolutely true, which is classic President Trump. He doesn't say it like a diplomat, thank God. He says it like an honest person, not a politician, and he's right on all of the above.
That's why Trump is successful. He talks like normal people. Greg Swenson from the Republican Overseas Organization, great to have you in the studio. Thank you so much. Right, we've got a big treat for you when we come back after this break. It's Pancake Day and Shrove Tuesday, of course. And we've got a special film for you surrounding Pancake Day. I think you're going to like it. That next. Stay tuned.
Breaking news this morning revealed that under the Terrorist Act, 242 people were arrested in the year to June of this year.
Something you can indulge in as to all the people who aren't going to prison because, well, there's no prison spaces.
So this is a Talk exclusive we've been looking at.
I said, you take these cuffs off me and speak to me like a human being rather than a common criminal.
You're just left wondering, do these people who lead us actually hate Britain?
Yeah.
Do they not love our country and everything that we've stood for?
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Migrant crisis, cost of living crisis, the economy going down the chute, another humiliating U-turn over the local elections. So much to concern our Prime Minister and our Chancellor of the Exchequer. So you wonder what's going on at Downing Street. Well, it's good to know that the two most important people in the country have got their priorities right. Let's take a look behind the curtains of 10 Downing Street.
Chancellor, I've got something for you.
Oh, very good.
Come in.
You all right?
Very good.
Is this your box?
Happy Pancake Day.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister. Are you going to have one as
I hope
well?
you like it. That's what I keep in here.
Very good.
Oh my God. I mean, Pancake Day, okay, but not today, Keir. Not today, Rachel. That was a really poor bit of publicity. It really was. That was inappropriateness incarnate. Let me know what you think about that. Our Prime Minister and our Chancellor of the Exchequer, with everything that's going on, what are they focusing on? Pancake Day. Lemon and sugar, I hope. Let me know what you think. 0344 499 1000. You can hardly believe it, can you? Shall we take some calls? Let's go straight to... I'll read some messages in just a sec. Actually, I should read this message. This is from Andy in Bridgend. He's talking about Ashley Ford Rubright, the Epstein victim who bravely spoke to me a while back. Ashley Ford Rubright must be commended for her bravery in coming forward and sharing her horrific, horrible experiences. The controlling, coercive behaviour these predators have over vulnerable young people is life-destroying. My heart goes out to these victims who will have to live with these harrowing events. And it's only now that Ashley is beginning to realise the extent of the trauma she suffered when after Jeffrey Epstein sexually assaulted her twice. This guy, as I said earlier, it was more than, you know, we're running this sex trafficking racket. He liked to lure young women into his massage rooms and attack them. That's the second story in 3 weeks I've had from victims. The last one was on his island. This one was in his mansion in Palm Beach. He was a rapist. He was a sexual assaulter. Well said, Andy. Shall we go to the phone? There's a voice note here from John on Reform UK.
Ben and Rupert, as much as I liked them, they're it's just bad blood feeling with Nigel, and neither of them are going to be PM, and Nigel is. All they're going to do is weaken the vote, and give the lefties more power. So I've got no time for either of them now. It's ridiculous. They should have got behind Nigel and Reform before the country's completely and utterly ruined.
I mean, I know where you're coming from, John. The trouble is that Ben and Rupert don't like Nigel Farage and he doesn't like them. One of those things. There's a personality clash there. That seems to be the score as far as that's concerned. Let me just read you another message on that score. This is from Simon. Simon says, I've just heard Ben Habib say that Nigel Farage was lying when he said that Rupert Lowe had advocated for the mass deportation of whole communities. What Rupert says was... that he had advocated for the reversal of mass immigration. How can you reverse a policy of immigration without removing the people who have immigrated? Heather says, both Ben Habib and Rupert Lowe are a pair of whinge bags. Can't get a grip of what Nigel Farage and Reform are doing. At least the Reform UK party has a plan, getting ready to be in government when they win the general election. Another says, please, this is Andrew, please tell Ben to put his toys back in his pram. If he had an ounce of love for this country, he would never have set up his silly little party. The left are rubbing their hands. Ben is a traitor. Well, that's pretty strong stuff. He's a friend of mine. But you're entitled to your opinion. This is Chris. For all Ben Habib's criticisms of reforms taking on former Tories, he and Rupert Lowe as new parties will need politicians of experience to succeed. That's a good point, Chris. Let's better get to the phones. Let's talk to Jackie in London. Hello, Jackie.
Hello. Those last comments have really grated me.
What do you think?
I think the only thing that Rupert and Ben do not agree on is when Ben started the Advanced UK, he brought on a college that would pass his policies with them, and they would go through them, so they would be looked at and passed on.
And so Jackie, who do you support? Are you with Rupert or Ben, or would you like both of them?
I was with Ben, hoping that Rupert would join with Ben.
Well, they might do that. I mean, Ben has made it clear.
Yeah. I'm hoping they do, because those two would be a force to be. They would be a force to be fought with. Those two guys.
And what is it? What is it, Jackie, that's made you disillusioned with Reform?
I just can't. I just don't like Nigel Farage.
What is it you don't like about him? What don't you like?
I don't like his ego. I don't like his policies. I don't like. I just don't believe what he says.
Interesting.
I'm just going back to his own constituency in Clacton. He hasn't been near those guys. He hasn't helped them out completely.
Well, he might contest that, but you're welcome to obviously say that. I don't know the details there. Listen, Jackie, I take your point, and what you're saying is representative of what quite a few of my audience are also saying. But then again, we're also getting a lot of support for Nigel, so it's an interesting situation. Jackie, thank you so much. Excellent call. Jackie in London. Let's talk to Peter in Dorset. Hi, Peter.
Hello, good evening to you. I'd like to point out about how we're going to put the backbone back into Britain. And the first thing we need to do when we get the right party back in power is to sort out the justice system and the police. We are all over the world with our justice system. People have followed our line all over the world, and we need to put that back in solidity in our own country. That's the first thing. And we need the police to be totally in line with the judiciary. And instead of two-tier care, we need to have the party saying, as long as we're here, it'll be one.
I think the police are in line with our judiciary. The judiciary is left-wing, and so are the police.
Well, the government need to be sorting out the angle on that. But that's the first side of it. Once we've done that, which will take some time, we need to expand the armed forces. And we're short of money. And in my view, it's going to take huge manpower to deal with the wrong kind of migrants that are here throughout the country. And I believe that it's going to take, in cahoots with the judiciary and the police, the army, to go through this situation to remove who shouldn't be here.
Yeah, these are nice thoughts, Peter, except the judiciary does not want to get rid of migrants. They've made that very clear. I'm not sure the police do either. So we've got a long way to go on all of this. But interesting points. Thank you for the call. Peter in Dorset. Let's quickly speak to, by the way, Alex Phillips will be in just a second to let you know what she's got lined up for you from 7 p.m. until 10 p.m. But in the meantime, let's talk to Mark in Watford. Hi, Mark.
Okay.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, U-turns. You think we've had enough of them, yeah?
Yeah, when the elections come, Starmer's gone and we need a general election. Britain needs to speak up and talk because we've had absolutely enough of this nonsense.
Yeah, but I mean, how do we get a general election? We're not going to get it, are we? Probably until 2029.
That's a good point, but we can't have another Labour leader after he goes.
Well, we will though. I mean, he'll definitely go in May after the May elections, and there'll be a new Labour leader, probably Ed Miliband or Angela Rayner or someone like that. There will be a new leader. So then we still have 3 more years till 2029. So there's a bit of a problem there, isn't there?
More than that, and that just now with Reeves and Starmer, that just tells you how badly they read the room, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly right. Pancakes, unbelievable. I'm afraid, Mark, Nigel Farage thinks there might be an election reasonably soon. Let's hope he's right. But rest assured, this government, just like the Prime Minister right now, will cling on to power for dear life as long as they can. And that's a depressing prospect. Good to talk, Mark. Thank you very much, Mark, in Watford. Alex is in the studio. Hi, Alex.
Hello. Yeah, I'm doing fine, actually. Thank you very much for asking, despite an onslaught of hate online last night.
Yeah, well, we're all used to that, aren't we? Water off a duck's back. What's on your show?
We are going to be, continuing after my interview yesterday with Charlie Downs, which has sort of created a bit of an explosion. I'm going to be speaking to more Restore supporters, asking them why they are backing the new party. We're going to be talking about that big reform announcement, the runners and the riders, whether it's going to satisfy the reform voters. We're also going to be talking about the Chagos Islands. It appears that there is money to be followed. Who has been making a coin out of that corruption?
Well, here's the thing. Baroness Kate Hoey, a redoubtable woman, impressive woman, is calling for a particular investigation into Peter Mandelson and the emails and correspondences he may have indulged in during his involvement in giving away those islands. He says, I mean, that idiot says, one of my greatest achievements when I was the brief ambassador to the United States was persuading the president to approve of us giving away the Chagos Islands. That's not an achievement, Pete.
Do you know, I did a massive deep dive into all of this on my Substack, so I'm very well versed on this story. I'm pleased to see it now sort of being picked up in other parts of the world. And then, of course, at 9 o'clock, Paul Cox is going to be sitting here for Weird Hour, which I can't wait.